Hello, my name is Mr. Beck. I'm a technology teacher in San Antonio, Texas. This will become part of a multi-part series in which we'll be creating some special effects using several programs, the GIMP, shortly, After Effects, and Premiere to create some special effects. The students will be creating a video with a green screen, and we'll be combining these special effects with a student-made video. These will be running live on our stream, our live television stream, which I'll talk about more a little bit later. So we'll start with the GIMP. Okay, first step is to create a texture to work with. So I'm going to go File, New, and this particular file is going to have the dimensions 720 by 480. Okay, the students in my class should be fairly familiar with this. I'm going to create a gradient. You can create any kind of gradient you want, spiral it, do whatever you want. I'm going to add a brush stroke. Now, the more colorful and bright this is, the better it's going to look, okay? And so this is just a texture palette. It doesn't have to look nice, okay? So I basically put some sparks and a gradient into a file in the GIMP, and now I'm going to save it. I'm going to go File, Save As. And if you don't know where the work folder is, where we're going to be saving right now, you should ask, because I need to make that clear to everyone, where we're going to save this project. I'm going to call this background.png, and it's a file that's 720 by 480. All right, and so now we've got a basic texture to work with here. Okay, make yours unique. Whatever you make nice and bright is going to be good for this. Okay, so I'm now going to go into After Effects. All right, and we are going to create a new project. All right, and you can see that I've gone through this already. I'm just going to delete a few things here. I'll go over all those steps. So I'm going to go Composition, New Composition. Okay. Notice this is also 720 by 480, and this is real important right here. All right. 10 seconds. All right. Let's make this a 10-second composition. We don't want to go much longer than that. Okay. All right. So I've got a 10-second composition, and I'm going to go File, Import, and I'm going to go grab that background image that I just created. All right. And I'm going to put it on the timeline. We're going to apply two effects to this. All right. The first one is Mercury, all right? And if I type in the word Mercury, it will bring up CC Mr. Mercury, all right? And this Mercury effect in Adobe After Effects it's pretty cool. I kind of like it. Now, you'll notice that Mercury has gravity applied to it. It's sort of shooting out and flying downward. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take that gravity number and I'm going to move it down to about 0.1 and make it almost weightless, you know? So we now have weightless looking Mercury. Okay. Once again, go through and mess with all these numbers. Play with the variables. See what they do. Make yours unique. I've some students come up with some pretty nifty looking effects just by adjusting the different rates here. Okay. We're going to apply another effect, and I'm going to call this one Sphere. And CC Sphere is going to come up, and I'm going to take that and I'm going to drag this effect onto Mr. Mercury. You can see now Mr. Mercury appears on a sphere. Okay. And if I hit play, I now have a 10-second animation of Mr. Mercury with that color palette I just created, rotating in a sphere. Now, this is going to look pretty neat when we get the chroma key going on. And there's like a student standing there, and eventually the sphere will be the size of the student's hand, approximately. Okay? All right, so let's render this out to a 10-second video. So I'm going to go Composition, and then Add to Render Queue. Easiest way to create a video out of After Effects there. Output module down in the bottom. I'm going to click on that. I'm just going to choose Video for Windows, make it simple. Output 2, all right? And in the work folder, I'm going to call this one Full Sphere because it's a full 10-second sphere, and that kind of tells me what this video is. So I'll click Save and then Render. So this is going to go through, and it's going to render out this 10-second video. The next step after we have our 10-second video rendered is we'll import it into Premiere. We're going to cut it into two 5-second segments. So we have first half, second half. And then we're going to bring it back into After Effects. And we're going to apply a third effect to the second 5 seconds so that it looks like it shatters off into space. All right. So the first step is just to create a single 10-second video. When these videos are complete, you'll see it on our live stream, which can be found at www.neisd.net/imac, I-M-A-K. I also have it at linuxclassroom.com, and we run it through Ustream. So right now I'm just waiting on this 10-second video. It's almost finished. All right. Yeah, I think these are going to look pretty neat. And we're finished. So the next step is to go into Adobe Premiere, okay? And you're going to create a new project, all right? With a new, everyone in my class should be familiar with this. We've been working with Premiere for the last 2 weeks, so everyone should be pretty comfortable here. I'm going to go File and then Import, and I'm going to bring my full sphere into Adobe Premiere. All right, and I'm going to drag it down there, and up at the top you can zoom in and out, and you can see this is exactly 10 seconds. Now the trick here is to cut it in half. So I'm going to click on the timeline up here, and I'm going to tell it the timeline pointer to go exactly to 5 seconds. You can see right there, okay? I've got my razor tool over on the right, and I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to put it right on the red line. Now Adobe's pretty good at cutting things and snapping. So I'm going to put it right on the red line, and I'm going to cut it right there. Okay? So now I have 2 clips. What we're going to do is we're going to delete the second half. We're going to render the first half. Then we're going to bring the second half back by using Control-Z, and we're going to delete the first half and render the second half. So we're essentially going to cut this into 2 5-second videos. So I'm going to select my mouse pointer. I'm going to select the second half first, and I'm going to choose Ripple Delete. Now I'm eventually going to want to hit Control-Z to bring that back, so you don't want to do anything too far to sort of so that cue disappears. So I'm going to go File, and in my class you can just choose Export Movie, but I'm going to choose File, Export Media, and in this case I'll go to the work folder, and I'm going to call this one Part 1, because this is the first 5 seconds. All right. And in my case, it's going to bring open the Adobe Media Encoder. And in order to render this out, I'm just going to click Start Queue. Now in my class, you could just probably choose Export Movie, and it would work. All right, so I've exported the first part. Now I'm going to go in. I'm going to hit Control-Z. And that's going to bring back the second half, and now I'm going to Ripple Delete the first part, and now this is the second 5 seconds right here. Okay, same process. File, Export, in my class probably Movie, and you probably guessed it, I'm going to call this Part 2. All right, and okay, and I'm going to go ahead and render this out. And so now what I've got inside of my work folder here are 2 different videos. All right, Part 1 and Part 2. Each one you can see 5 seconds long. Split this up. All right, so back into After Effects. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go Composition, New Composition, and I'm going to import those two parts, Part 1 and Part 2. All right, and here we are. So I'm going to take Part 1. I'm going to drag it onto the timeline. And I'm going to take Part 2 and I'm going to drag it onto the timeline. And then Part 2 I'm going to slide out. So now we have, essentially, we've just got that same 10-second video, all right, cut into 2 parts. And it's seamless. You can see that it flows and it's perfect. All right, now we're going to shatter. We're going to apply the shatter effect to the second half. So under Effects and Presets, I'm going to type in the word shatter. And I'm going to take it down to the second half here. And you can see our wireframe here. Over where it says View, you can choose Rendered to see what it's going to look like. All right, and you can choose Wireframe and Forces, and that blue circle indicates where it's going to shatter. So that's under Force 1, and then Radius. You can adjust that circle to make it bigger or smaller to sort of make it fit your sphere. Okay. Also under Shape, you can increase repetitions. Once again, change. You don't have to use bricks. You can use anything you want. Squares. I'll go ahead. I'll use triangles. All right. And you can do repetitions. You can make it as big or as small as you want. And you basically set up the shatter effect on the second 5 seconds to work the way you want it to. All right. Okay. So I'm going to go back into rendered view, and let's just take a look and see if this works. All right. You can see that it shatters off. And you know, I think I'm going to probably go ahead and do something with the gravity here too under physics. And I'll take the gravity and I'll make it so that it's not being necessarily affected so much by gravity. All right, so we got Mr. Mercury that shatters off into space just like that. That's pretty cool. All right, so we've got our two 5-second clips, and we've got a sphere now that shatters off into space. All right, we're now going to render this into a video, and this will be the last step for this particular section. File, export. No, excuse me, I'm in Adobe After Effects, so composition, add to render queue, and once again, video for Windows. And I would please call this one final sphere, because this is our final sphere, and we'll use this as our final piece, as one piece of our special effect for this video. I'm going to click render, and you can see that it's pushing that out fairly quickly, doing a good job there. And there it is, shatters off into space. All right, once this is finished, we'll take a look at it once. And the next video I'm going to create, I'll just talk about how to create the text that comes in after this. All right, so here we are. There's Final Sphere. I'm going to click on it. Let's watch it once. Here it comes. Here's the video you should have created. This is worth a lot of points having all this put together, because this is pretty complicated stuff. A lot of different programs go into this. A lot of different techniques. That's a lot of work for 10 seconds. Okay, so that is it for this first part of this creating video special effects tutorial. Thanks for watching, and look for part 2 when I get around to producing it. Thank you.